Have you ever noticed something strange about attention? Sometimes, the moment you begin thinking seriously about a particular idea, that same idea suddenly seems to appear everywhere. You hear people talking about it. You see articles discussing it. You come across books, videos, or conversations exploring the exact topic that had just appeared in your mind. Or perhaps you begin considering a major change in your life, and suddenly, conversations, opportunities, and pieces of information related to that change begin appearing around you. Sometimes it happens when you quietly ask a question in your mind, and not long afterward, you encounter a message, a conversation, or an unexpected insight that feels almost like an answer. There are even moments when you focus deeply on a goal, and somehow, the people, resources, and opportunities connected to that goal begin appearing in surprising ways. Experiences like these can feel almost mysterious, as if the universe itself is somehow responding to your awareness. But is that really what is happening? Is the universe responding to our thoughts? Or is something else changing in the way we perceive the world around us? Experiences like these have fascinated people for centuries. Across cultures and throughout history, many traditions have wondered whether human awareness might interact with the world in ways we do not yet fully understand. Some spiritual traditions suggest that intention and awareness can influence the direction of our lives. Philosophers have long asked whether the observer plays a role in shaping reality. And even modern science has explored how attention changes the way we experience the world around us. But the real question may not be whether our thoughts magically control the universe. The question may be something far more subtle. Could the way we direct our awareness influence the patterns we notice, the opportunities we recognize, and the paths that begin to unfold in our lives? Because when awareness changes, our experience of reality often changes with it. One of the most powerful forces shaping our experience of reality is something surprisingly simple: attention. At every moment, the world around us contains an enormous amount of information. Millions of visual details, countless sounds, endless movements and interactions happening all at once. But the human brain cannot process everything, so it performs a remarkable task. It filters reality. Out of everything happening around us, the brain selects only a small portion of information to bring into conscious awareness, and that selection is strongly influenced by what we are currently paying attention to. This is why something curious often happens when we encounter a new idea. At first, we may have never noticed it before, but the moment it enters our awareness, it suddenly seems to appear everywhere. Psychologists sometimes refer to this experience as the frequency illusion, the feeling that something has suddenly become more common, simply because our awareness has become tuned to it. The world itself may not have changed, but our perception of the world has. And when perception changes, our experience of reality can begin to change with it. If attention shapes what we notice in the world, then our awareness may be participating in something more than simple observation. Think about the relationship between awareness and reality as a kind of feedback loop. First, something captures your attention: an idea, a question, a possibility. Once your awareness begins focusing on it, your brain starts filtering the world differently. You begin noticing information related to that idea. You recognize opportunities connected to that possibility. You start having conversations that move in that direction. Those events influence your decisions influence your actions, and your actions change the situations you enter. Those situations then create new experiences, and those experiences shape what you pay attention to next. In other words, awareness and reality are constantly interacting with one another, not in a mystical sense, but through a continuous cycle. Awareness influences perception. Perception influences decisions. Decisions influence actions, and actions shape the events that begin unfolding in our lives. Over time, this cycle can create the feeling that life itself is responding to our awareness. But what may actually be happening is something even more interesting. Reality is not simply something we observe from the outside. It is something we participate in through the way we perceive, interpret, and act within it. Our awareness becomes part of the process through which our experience of reality unfolds. And when that process becomes clearer, life can begin to feel less random and more like a pattern gradually revealing itself. Another way to understand this interaction comes from the perspective of energy within the brain. The human brain and nervous system are not only biological systems, they are also electrical systems constantly generating patterns of activity. Every thought, every emotion, every moment of attention corresponds to changing patterns of neural activity within the brain. When our attention is scattered, those patterns tend to be fragmented. But when our awareness becomes focused and intentional, something interesting happens. Neural activity within the brain begins to organize itself more coherently. In that state, perception becomes clearer. Decisions become more intentional, and actions begin moving in a more consistent direction. From this perspective, attention can be understood as the direction in which our mental energy flows. And as that energy becomes more organized, the way we interact with the world around us begins to change as well. Not because the universe is magically responding to our thoughts, but because our awareness has become more aligned with the patterns unfolding around us. To understand how awareness and reality can begin interacting like a feedback loop, it helps to look at simple experiences many people have had. Sometimes the shift begins with a single idea. Imagine someone who starts seriously thinking about changing their career. At first, it is only a quiet thought, a question somewhere in the back of the mind. Is there something else I should be doing? For a while, nothing appears to change. Life continues exactly as it did before. But gradually, something subtle begins to shift. They begin noticing articles about the kind of work they have been considering. They hear people discussing opportunities in that field. A conversation with a friend suddenly brings up the exact topic they have been thinking about. Soon after, they meet someone who happens to work in that same industry. Individually, none of these events seem extraordinary. But together, they begin creating a feeling that life itself is pointing toward a particular direction, almost as if the universe had heard the question and started responding. But something more subtle may actually be happening. Once that question entered their awareness, their attention began filtering the world differently. Information related to that possibility became easier to notice. Conversations connected to that topic stood out more clearly. Opportunities that might have once passed unnoticed suddenly became visible. The world itself did not change, but their awareness of it did. And that shift began shaping the experiences that followed. sometimes the same process begins with curiosity rather than change. Imagine someone becoming interested in a completely new subject, perhaps psychology, perhaps philosophy, perhaps a new technology or creative field. At first, they know very little about it. But the moment their curiosity awakens, something interesting begins to happen. They start noticing books about the subject. They encounter videos discussing the same ideas. They meet people who are interested in it as well. One discovery leads to another. One conversation leads to a new insight. And before long, the subject that once felt distant becomes part of their everyday life. From the outside, it can feel as if the world suddenly became full of that topic. But in reality, that information may have always been present. What changed was the direction of attention. Once awareness tuned into that subject, the brain began recognizing patterns and connections related to it. And the more attention it received, the more opportunities appeared to explore it further. There are also moments when this process appears during important life decisions. Someone may spend weeks questioning a particular path, weighing possibilities, uncertain about which direction to take. Then, one day, something small happens. They hear a story from someone who once faced the same decision. A book opens to a page describing a similar situation. A conversation unexpectedly offers a new perspective. Individually, none of these events were planned. Yet together, they form a kind of quiet guidance. Moments like these can create the impression that life itself is responding. But what may actually be unfolding is something more subtle. The deeper we focus on a question, the more our awareness begins searching for patterns related to it. And as those patterns appear, our decisions and actions begin moving in new directions. Over time, that direction shapes the experiences that follow. And when we look back, the sequence of events can feel almost perfectly timed, as if the universe had been responding all along. But perhaps what we are really seeing is the quiet feedback loop between awareness, attention, and the unfolding of our own lives. Experiences like these can be interpreted in many different ways. Some people see them as simple coincidences. Others feel they reveal something deeper about the relationship between the human mind and the world around it. Science tends to approach these questions with caution. The universe is incredibly complex, and many events that appear meaningful may simply be the result of probability and timing. But even when we acknowledge this, the experience itself remains fascinating. Because these moments often appear when our awareness becomes deeply engaged with a question, a goal, or a possibility. When our attention becomes focused, something subtle begins to change. We begin observing the world differently. We recognize patterns more quickly. We become more sensitive to opportunities and connections that might otherwise pass unnoticed. In other words, the way we experience reality is not completely separate from the state of our awareness. Our perception becomes part of the process. Our decisions become part of the process. Our actions become part of the process. Reality, in many ways, becomes something we participate in, rather than something we simply observe. This does not mean that the universe is responding to every thought we have, but it may suggest something equally interesting: that awareness and reality are constantly interacting through the choices we make, the attention we give, and the actions we take. And when those elements begin moving in the same direction, life can sometimes feel less random. and more like a pattern gradually revealing itself. Perhaps moments when life seems to respond to us are not signs of a mysterious force at work. Perhaps they are simply moments when our awareness becomes clear enough to recognize the patterns that were already unfolding around us. So, the next time you notice one of these moments, when a question in your mind seems to be followed by an unexpected answer, when the right conversation appears at just the right time, or when a series of small events suddenly begins to fall into place, pause for a moment. Not to assume that something supernatural has happened, but simply to observe how awareness and experience sometimes move together in subtle ways. Because the way we see the world is never completely separate from the way we pay attention to it. Our awareness shapes what we notice. What we notice shapes the decisions we make, and those decisions gradually shape the direction of our lives. Perhaps the universe is not responding to every thought we have, but our awareness may still play a quiet role in how the patterns of our lives unfold. And sometimes, when attention, intention, and action begin moving in the same direction, life can feel less like a series of random events and more like a story slowly revealing its path. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the Healing Galaxy so our energy field can continue to grow and expand. Thank you for being here, and have a peaceful day.